Hey Goblin, you've been really practicing those war drums.
I'll bring the generic goblin noise!
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. with free weekly content and free shipping on orders over $150. You can save 5% site-wide by using the promo code MTGMudsta. If you're looking for a direct way to help the channel, please consider joining my Patreon and becoming a member of the Generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. For today's game, I have invited over Max, Mika, and Kevin to play with me. Max has decided to rock Kess, keeping Nekasar the Mind Razor, the Locust God, Whispering Madness, Psychic Corrosion, Swamp, Island, and Xander's Lounge. Mika is playing Rith, keeping Plains, Chromatic Lantern, Galagreeters, Eldrazi Monument, Reflecting Pool, Wooded Foothills, and Cabareti Ascendancy. Kevin is playing his Ratadrabik, keeping Athreos Shroud Veiled, Orzhov Signet, Doom Whisperer, Soldavi Adnate, Swamp, Temple of Silence, and Bojuka Bog. I'm still loving my Otrimi deck, keeping Gwenna, Eyes of Gaia, Shipwreck Marsh, Rogue's Passage, Sol Ring, Tanos the Toymaker, Swamp, and Yavimaya Coast. Max wins the die roll and starts us off. He draws and plays a tap Xander's Lounge. Mika plays a Wooded Foothills. Kevin plays a Temple of Silence, which comes in tapped, and he scries one, keeping it on top. I draw and play a Swamp, and then cast Sol Ring, and pass while Mika sacrifices his Wooded Foothills to go and find a Stomping Grounds. Maximus draws and plays a Swamp, and passes. Mika's got a Plains, and pays 2 for a Galagreeters. Kevin plays a Swamp, and then pays 2 for Orzhov Signet, passing to me. I draw and play Yavimaya Coast. I then lose 1 as I tap it to help cast Gwenna. Max draws, playing an island. He casts a Malevolent Hermit and passes. Mika draws and plays a Reflecting Pool. He then taps enough for Cabareti Ascendancy, passing to Kevin. Kevin draws and plays a tap Bojuka Bog, exiling Mika's graveyard. He then casts his own Sol Ring and follows up with his commander, Ratadrabik, and passes to me after that. I draw and play a Scoot Swarm. I then play a Shipwreck Marsh, making an insect token. I follow that up by mutating Glowstone Recluse onto my Swarm, and I get to put 2+1/+1 counters onto it, and pass. Max draws, playing a mountain. He then casts Psychic Corrosion, and passes. Mika whiffs on his Cabareti Ascendancy, but then draws for turn. He plays a Jungle Shrine, and casts Cultivate, finding a basic for the field, and 1 for his hand. He passes after that. Kevin draws, and plays a High Market as his land for turn. He then casts Soldavi Adnate, as well as a Doom Whisperer. Moving to combat, Kevin smacks Max for 3 with his commander, passing after that. I've got a Rogue's Passage coming into play on my turn, making another insect token. I then cast Tanos the Toymaker, and go to combat. I swing my mutated Scoot Swarm at Mika, who takes the hit, and I pass after that. Maximus draws while everyone mills 2 from the Psychic Corrosion trigger. He then plays a Swamp for turn, and casts Wheel of Fortune. This has us discarding our hands, and then drawing a fresh 7, which has the Psychic Corrosion milling all of Maximus's opponents for 14 cards. He then follows up with a Goblin Welder, passing. Mika reveals Aurelia the War Leader off the Cabareti Ascendancy, putting her to his hand, and then draws for turn. He plays a Terramorphic Expanse, and then casts Academy Rector, making a tapped treasure token from the Galagreeters seeing it come in. After that, he passes, and during his end step, Kevin pays 6 life to surveil 2-3 times with a Doom Whisperer, eventually keeping 1 on top after having binned some cards. Kevin draws his surveilled card and plays a Plains. He then sacrifices the Doom Whisperer to the Soldavi Adnate for 5 black mana, and uses some of it to cast Elis Ilkor and then Barakos. Kevin then plays Dread Return as well, targeting Braids, and Max lets it resolve. Kevin then flashes back Dread Return by sacrificing 3 creatures, and targets Sidisi Undead Vizier this time, making 3 copies of his creatures with Ratadrabik, and drains us for that much with Elis. Sidisi then comes in, exploits herself, and Kevin makes another token copy of her, who also exploits herself, and he gets to go and tutor for 2 cards. Kevin then follows up with a Victimize, but Max finally pulls the plug on the value, sacrificing the Malevolent Hermit to counter it. After that, Kevin passes. I draw and play a Forest, making another insect token. I then mutate Otrimi onto my Scoot Swarm stack, and get to copy it with Thanos. I make a token copy of it, but I've actually been corrected and it should have mutated onto my creature, which is actually way better than I thought. I then follow suit with a Migratory Greathorn on the Scoot Swarm, grabbing an island, which makes a copy of my Scoot Swarm stack. Going to combat, I swing my Scoot Swarm stack at Kevin, who blocks 2 of it and takes 7. With Kevin taking damage and thanks to Otrimi's ability, I'm able to return Pouncing Shore Shark to my hand, and I pass after that. Max draws, and we all mill 2. He then plays a mountain and casts Jeska's Will, getting 7 red mana. He uses 4 of it for Echo of Eons, and holds priority to play Valakut Awakening. This has Max putting his entire hand on the bottom, and then draws 4 to mill us for 8. He then cycles a Baron Moors before the Echo of Eon resolves, milling us another 2 as he draws. Unfortunately for Max, he forgets that the Echo shuffles our graveyards into our decks as well though. Before it resolves, Max uses the Goblin Welder to swap Mika's treasure token for an Eldrazi Monument, and we then all draw 7 cards and mill 14. With nothing else, Max passes. Mika sacrifices the Rector to the Eldrazi Monument on his upkeep, tutoring out a Defense of the Heart after exiling the creature. He then draws and plays a Forest and then casts Rith. He passes to Kevin after that. Kevin draws and goes to combat. He swings his creatures at Max, draining us all for 3 with Barakos. Max then takes the hit, and Kevin casts an Incarnation technique, demonstrating it with Max to get an extra copy. Max mills his card but whiffs, and Kevin reanimates Ow and Yeheni. Kevin then plays Exhume, reanimating Elis Ilkor, while I get Ivy, and Mika gets Yasharn, which unfortunately hoses Kevin's sacrifice shenanigans. With nothing else, Kevin passes. I draw and mutate an Auspicious Starrix onto my Scoot Swarm. A target also gets to copy Ivy, and Mika responds by casting Path to Exile and targets my Scoot Swarm stack. I respond to that by casting Paradoxical Outcome to return the stack to my hand and draw 4, and the Starrix copy resolves on Ivy. This has me exiling into a Sawtusk Demolisher. I also get the Thanos trigger, which I play incorrectly by making a token copy of it, and I then play Swamp for turn, making a Scoot Swarm token that has all the mutate goodness with it because of the other Scoot Swarm token. I then follow up by casting Migratory Greathorn on the Sawtusk Demolisher, which also copies targeting Ivy. This allows me to destroy Mika's Eldrazi Monument, and I then get to go and find 2 lands off the Migratory Greathorn, not to mention get to resolve 2 Auspicious Starrix triggers on Ivy. This has me flipping into a Birds of Paradise, and then an Archipelagore. Thanos also makes me a Migratory Greathorn too, and unfortunately I misplay it because I only learned about this post-game, and I then move to combat. Moving to combat, I swing at Max with a Scoot Swarm that has all the mutate triggers. Since the creature has the Otrimi's ability on it, when it connects, I get to return a mutate creature to my hand, and with nothing else, I pass. Max draws and we mill 2. He plays out a Nightscape familiar and casts Clever Impersonator, copying the Psychic Corrosion. He then follows up with Windfall, and we all discard our hands, draw 7, and then mill 28. He can't find an answer to Mika's Defense of the Heart though, and he has to pass. Mika's Defense of the Heart triggers, and he sacrifices it, going to find Aurelia the War Leader and Perforos, God of the Forge. We also take 2 from Aurelia, coming in thanks to Perforos. He then resolves his Cabaretti Ascendancy trigger, whiffing on it, and drawing for turn. Moving to combat, Mika hits Max with Aurelia and Rith, and then pays for Rith's ability, naming green. This makes him enough Saproling tokens to trigger Perforos plenty of times, and promptly wins the game. Game review time. So unfortunately my voice has gone a little bit since recording this game and doing the narration for it, but it was pretty sweet nonetheless. I'm really surprised at the interaction with Tawnos and Mutate, although it does kind of make sense since you're copying the spell, which, if you're casting it for Mutate, targets something, so you'd get a target again. This just opens up so many more lines for the deck and makes me even more excited to play it again in the future. I believe that Maximus's Kess deck is basically a Nekasar deck. He just wanted to be able to cast spells from his graveyard after wheeling them. He was really excited to play Echoes of Eons until we all pointed out that we had to shuffle our graveyard back into our library, after which he was very quick to say he was removing the card from the deck. Ratadrabik is incredible, and I'm incredibly impressed with how powerful it can be when you have a sacrifice outlet going. Kevin got so much value on that one turn, reanimating and bringing stuff back, plus getting extra token copies of stuff, and I think had he taken a second to see other people's graveyards, he might not have been so quick to cast Exhume, since the Yasharan shut him down so hard. Mika's Rith deck is always fun to see, and he keeps playing new cards that I've never seen in action before. Cabaretti Ascendancy was always fun, and I actually kind of like the fact that he used Defense of the Heart not to find the typical game-winning combo of Avenger of Zendikar and Perforos. I mean, basically he's got an Avenger of Zendikar in the command zone anyway, so he didn't really need it. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.